Hi there, and welcome to Healing from CPTSD. My name is Justin Vanderwind, and I am your host. In today's episode, I will be sharing how narcissistic abuse has affected my life overall and sharing my thoughts and feelings on it. If you haven't done so already, be sure to head to our website at healingfromcptsd.com and sign up on our email list for regular updates along with a free weekly newsletter. The Healing from CPTSD course will be officially launching on January 8th, 2022, which will show you how to heal and empower yourself from CPTSD and take your life back. So be sure to sign up on our email list to be first in line for the launch. All links will be in the description below. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Healing from CPTSD. My name is Justin Vanderwind, and I am your host. So in today's episode, I really wanted to just talk about how narcissistic abuse has affected my life personally. You know, and all the ways that my life has been affected by this. Just to kind of share from my own heart, my own personal experiences, as well as to show how devastating narcissistic abuse really is, just across the board. So some of this, I'll be reviewing some stuff I've already talked about in some other episodes, but I'll kind of go in a little bit with a little bit more detail as far as how many of these things have affected my life personally. So as I've mentioned in previous episodes, my primary narcissist was my mother. Extremely mean, extremely high-strung, extremely toxic and abusive, and just constant chaos manufacture, constant fighting with whoever was in the household at the time. I grew up in a very sort of broken, unstable, toxic home, but my surrounding family was also pretty unhealthy and toxic too. My father's mother was a pretty hardcore narcissist, as well as an alcoholic for a while. My mother's father was also a hardcore narcissist, so it was just narcissists are all over the place, as well as all the codependent enablers and just the general toxicity. So you've got to understand there's a lot of stress going on in those households. There's a lot of anxiety. You're constantly being put down, and your sense of self, your self-esteem, your self-confidence goes to the toilet. And you're sort of given this, you're sort of always like walking on eggshells everywhere you go, right? So you're kind of just given this, you're kind of like, you just have anxiety all the time, right? That's how you live. And you just become a very fearful individual in general. I mean, your fear is through the roof no matter what's going on, right? Kind of like imagine what it's like when you're in a class and you have to go kind of like give a speech to the class or something, and how you might be nervous and have butterflies in your stomach. That's for someone who's come from a very traumatic and broken and stressful, abusive home. They feel like that all the time. It's horrible. Your fight-flight response is constantly kicking in. So just right off the bat, my life has just been like pervaded by incredible fear and anxiety, but also the emotional flashbacks that would come along with it. And as a result, generally speaking, I just became extremely withdrawn, isolated, and shut down. I never felt safe, as I mentioned before. So moving into my life where I was in school and interacting with other kids and making friends and stuff, I would say that the anxiety and the fear is the big one, for like one of the main beginning characteristics of how I experienced my life as a result of narcissistic abuse. And but then my ability to know what my emotional self was and how to speak from that and how to connect with others, whether like girlfriends or friends or anybody really on an authentic emotional level. I didn't have the ability to do that. And I was also, largely conditioned that being emotionally vulnerable and open was like a kind of dangerous. And the truth is, being emotionally vulnerable would trigger emotional flashbacks for me personally. And so it was just extreme. It wasn't just scary. Those emotional flashbacks could be extremely painful and debilitating, right? I almost liken it to like when you have sometimes people have like those electric fences for their dogs or something, and they put that collar on, and if the dog goes past a certain limit or a certain point, it kind of shocks the dog and it's really uncomfortable, and they have to go back to their yard so the shocks cease, right? that's kind of what my experience has been like with emotional flashbacks in certain situations. It's not, I've had courage to do things. I've had to go against my fears a lot in my life because everything was kind of permeated with fear. But you have to understand too that it's almost, if you're wearing like an electric collar or something and that's running through your system, it's painful, but it's also extremely exhausting, right? So even if I was like, quote, brave enough to open up to a girl or anybody like a 12-step program, it wasn't just uncomfortable, it was extremely painful and draining. And so I just naturally wanted to avoid doing those things because of how painful it was, because I didn't know what emotional flashbacks were, and I certainly didn't know how to stop them when they were happening. So what ended up happening was I would just avoid situations that would trigger those emotional flashbacks, which unfortunately became pretty much most areas of life, right? So with that in mind, moving forward, like my ability to be myself was significantly debilitated. My ability to have, and I remember even being really young, like even still in elementary school, middle school, having like little girlfriends here and there, like on the playground, passing notes and stuff like that. And I remember thinking like, it's like it was really painful and uncomfortable to me to get too close to them, to the point where the entire situation of like trying to be close to somebody was so uncomfortable and painful for me that I would just leave the relationship or sabotage it, or you know what I mean? Like even as a kid, I couldn't handle emotional intimacy. It was just something that was so uncomfortable and painful for me. And I didn't know, like what I'm verbalizing now, I didn't know that then. I didn't have this concept. It was just something that was extremely painful and uncomfortable, and in some cases debilitating for me. So I would just kind of avoid those situations. And as I got older, middle school, high school, I just became way more isolated. I remember, like school, like from first grade through sixth grade, the first year of middle school in the U.S. anyway, I grew up with a particular group of people, right? So like kids in the neighborhood. So like I knew all these people all the way up through middle school, the first year anyway. After my sixth grade year, we moved to a different town. So the school I started when I was in seventh grade was with an entirely new group of people, and I didn't know anyone. My anxiety it was unbelievable. Like, so I just remember I didn't have any friends, and it was harder to overcome my inner anxiety and emotional flashbacks to connect with other people. I was just terrified all the time. I isolated myself like inwardly and outwardly as much as I possibly could. And because it was so terrifying to pay attention in class and to speak up and to I had some friends again, but courage and all that was really hard for me. And so I got picked on a lot. I didn't have really any girlfriends really until I was like 17. And you know what's crazy? Let me tell you this. Looking back, especially in some places in middle school, but in high school, there were times where attractive girls would talk to me. And looking back, I really think that some of them, there were certain cases where they were trying to like either get to know me or I don't know what was going on. But these were like, what was crazy was, you got to understand, like these were like the popular girls. Some of them and I didn't know what they wanted. Talk about terrified. Like I was kind of like, I wasn't a loser, like I didn't get good grades or whatever, but I was kind of one of those like shy, nerdy loser. But I'm a weird case because I'm big physically. You know what I mean? I don't have glasses or anything, so I don't look like a nerd. I seem like a nerd, but it's like I'm a fish out of water or something. So it was terrifying. And I honestly, this is where like what narcissistic abuse and CPTSD did to me. This is one of the main areas of my life that has really hurt me, and I have a lot of regret over, even though obviously none of it was my fault. But I really would have liked to have not had all that anxiety and emotional flashbacks and all that, the vicious inner critic going on in my own head, so that I could have been a little, had more friends, been more myself, had more self-confidence, and been able to date some of these girls. Like I didn't really Somehow I did end up at some parties through high school, but I didn't I wasn't ever I just felt like I was robbed of so much of like my childhood and my teenage years and things I could have done or wanted to do in high school. And then I just lived such an isolated, fear-filled life. But it wasn't my fault. It wasn't just nervousness. I mean, I was I was dealing with extreme trauma and conditioning from the narcissistic abuse at my own home, and it didn't just damage me inside and give me pain in general. It cut me off from so many life experiences that I just never had and still struggle with to this day. I'm sad about it, and I'm really angry. This is, again, one of the big ways that narcissistic abuse affected my life. I would just shut down. I mean, I had girls ask me out, and I would just be like, no, sorry. Because the truth is, like, I was so absolutely terrified in general and of whatever emotional flashbacks were going on that I just pushed them away. I mean, it was to the point where, like, if I was called on in class, I was like the type of person who would like try to sit in the back and away and hide, right? If I was called on in class, I would have like a panic attack. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but when you're dealing with something like CPTSD from narcissistic abuse, that happens. It's like it's almost like an emotional flashback. That's what it felt like to me. I would have liked to have been more, do more and explore more and just feel more myself and have a loving, strong family and just do so much more, have parties and girlfriends and, even go to college. We'll get to that in a second. So, and actually, this is the second major way narcissistic abuse affected my life was that in 10th grade, my anxiety levels were so high again and the emotional flashbacks that in 10th grade, I just kind of like, I don't know, it just felt like some kind of existential depression. It almost, when I read about like dissociation or psychosis or something, that's what it felt like. It just felt like it almost felt like I was like fading out of reality or something. Like I don't, it was really weird. And I think it was because of the extreme levels of fear and anxiety that was running through my system on a regular basis, that my nervous system just kind of imploded in on itself, stopped doing my homework, and I left the public education system in my 10th grade year. And I actually finished high school through a correspondence program called the American School of Correspondence, where I could basically it was like a private institute. I mean, it's fully accredited, but I was able to do it at home. So it was kind of like homeschooling, but you're corresponding with teachers like through the mail and stuff like that. So, and I got a lot of that helped me because my anxiety, like I was able to just calm down. I mean, really what needed to happen was I needed to heal and stop being abused and treated like crap in such a toxic environment. So so I did get a high school diploma from a correspondence program, and then I went to my local community college and got an AA degree, which I know is like nothing. I went to a local 4-year university down in South Florida. I was only in there a couple semesters, and I was like, man, I just can't, I can't do this, and I don't really want to anyway. So I didn't finish college. Like, again, I do have an AA degree, a 2-year degree, but I don't have a bachelor's degree. And I'm more of an entrepreneur anyway, but I'm telling you that anxiety, especially like in college, like, it was crippling. I mean, it kind of, narcissistic abuse kind of destroyed my life. And my life so far has been just struggling, trying to get my life back. You know what I mean? And so let's see. So, okay, let me just go back to high school. So I left in 10th grade because of CPTSD and the high levels of anxiety, which is from the narcissistic abuse. At the same time, I had my first main girlfriend, and it was not healthy. I don't know if she was a narcissist. I don't know. We were too young, but it certainly wasn't healthy. And we had one of those relationships where it was extremely uncomfortable for me. And so I would just I would like break up with her, and then like a few days later we'd start texting again, and like it was like one of those unhealthy situations. I think it's possible that she came from a narcissistic home too, and we were just kind of two really emotionally damaged kids, and it wasn't good. It was extremely painful. I didn't do anything bad or wrong to her, but I did kept, pushing her away and breaking up with her many times, and it hurt her, and I do regret that. But the truth is, I wasn't doing it to be malicious. I was doing it because of the CPTSD and the anxiety and issues with emotional intimacy. And it was like inner hell because I wanted a girlfriend, but it's like I couldn't do it. Again, it's almost like the example with the dog and the electric collar. It's like the closer I got to someone, whether there was emotional intimacy going on or I'd have to like show myself, like be authentic and vulnerable, I almost like just couldn't do it. It was just terrifying, and I'd have like panic attacks and emotional flashbacks and stuff. So it was horrible. So narcissistic abuse like ruined my ability to have healthy relationships with people or relationships at all. Once I finished that correspondence program, by the way, I got a lot of flack from that from my family. They basically just saw me as a weak quitter and a loser. They would say things like you dropped out of school, and it really wasn't. That's not what happened. Like dropping out of school is dropping out of school, right? Or getting your GED. It's almost like if you just go to a different school, right? I still have a fully accredited high school diploma. You know what I mean? So that didn't happen. I didn't get my GED. But they would say mean, degrading, passive aggressive things to me about that. I got a lot of shame. But honestly, my main interest was trying to heal myself and figure out what was going on for my own health and well-being. It all happened. Like I left high school the way that I did for my health and well-being. And what's amazing is, well, knowing now about narcissistic and toxic families, like they didn't care about me at all. They just got meaner. Like they didn't, you know what I'm saying? Like they didn't care about my well-being. They didn't care how I was feeling. They didn't care what was wrong with me. This didn't happen because I joined a gang or I started doing crack or something. None of that happened. It was all 100% because I was having an extreme difficulty functioning, holding down stress, even just in high school. You know what I mean? In relationships, I just broke. Honestly, that's what it's felt like in my life. Like the narcissistic abuse just broke me. I just felt shattered, and I couldn't function, and no one cared. They were just nastier and put me down even more. You know what I mean? It's like you're on the ground struggling just to get through life, and people are just kind of like yelling at you and spitting on you and kicking dirt. It's like, where's the love? Like, where's the compassion, So after I finished the American School of Correspondence, I went to the local community college, like I said, and I did get my AA degree, but it took me like 5 years. And I'm telling you, I would have this problem where I would like sign up for classes, and then the classes would get too stressful, and I would just withdraw out of the classes. I had like 13 W's, like withdrawals from different classes. And the reason was because of the anxiety, just having to like speak out in class. It was so constant and so debilitating that I had to just leave. And then I'd have like emotional flashbacks, and I'd have to take a few days off and just be in my bed. And this happened because of the narcissistic abuse, because of the CPTSD. It's like a damaged car or something that just can't get down the street. There's a reason, not everybody's a loser just because they're fooling around. Some people are damaged and broken by other people. So that was a big source of stress for me. And over the years, like my later teens, early 20s, I had a bunch of girlfriends and stuff, but again, I wasn't able to connect with them emotionally, and I broke up with all of them. At one point, I did have a fiance, and she was cool, but I just couldn't do it. You know what I mean? So actually, I think looking back, I think she had CPTSD too from narcissistic abuse, and I think that's one reason we connected so much. The problem was neither one of us knew what CPTSD was or how to heal from it, so we went our separate ways. And honestly, I haven't gotten married. I don't have any kids. I'm 35, and so again, like I haven't had my own place this whole time. I haven't had a career because I can't handle school. I can't even handle a lot of the workplaces I've been in. I can't handle the stress. Sometimes I get to the point where I deteriorate over time. And people can tell, right? Like I have like maybe a bad mood or something, or like I've been in a lot of customer service and hospitality. So if I get like a real abusive person on my hands, my ability to maintain patience is severely limited. So what ends up happening is, there's situations where if somebody's being really rude or nasty to me, I just kind of stop them in their tracks and put them in their place. I just don't let them be abusive to me is really what's happening. And of course, then they go complain to the manager or something. So I got so many complaints that, I couldn't function. I couldn't hold down jobs. I couldn't hold down school. I couldn't hold down relationships. And this all happened because of the narcissistic abuse. I mean, there's a part of me that it was like, I should sue this lady. You know what I mean? Because honestly, this is BS. And of course, this whole time, middle school, high school, early college years, like I was going to therapists, but nobody was able to really ever help me. I mean, maybe someone said, "Oh, you're depressed or have anxiety," but nobody ever talked about CPTSD or emotional trauma or personality. Like I had to find out all that on my own. That's another thing that pissed me off was that, again, I've said this before, but I was willing, I was there, I was going to therapy, I was looking for solutions from professionals. And after all the shaming and put downs I got from the mental health field, because what they were giving me or prescribing me just wasn't working, ultimately it turned out I was right. I'm 35 now. I learned about CPTSD when I was 31. I learned about personality disorders a few years before that. And that was at least a huge relief. But my God, just to find out about that stuff was insane. Like, nobody should have to go through this, right? Like, if you have a problem that's preventing you from functioning in life, you should be able to go fix that problem, right? Like, if my car breaks down, you take it to a mechanic, they figure out what the problem is, fix it, and you're back on the road. That's, in my mind, how it should be with something like CPTSD and narcissistic abuse. As pissed off as I was that I had that damage and abuse happen, I was like, all right, let's fix it. And then it's like going to the mechanic after mechanic, and they can't fix your car. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it's been like. It's been like unbelievable hell, to be like multiple levels of hell. So like, once I learned about narcissistic, I shut everything down. Like I shut my focus just became healing. I don't have a relationship. Again, no wife, no kids. All my friends are pretty much gone. I like to isolate a lot. And I've healed a lot, but it's been so hard. I don't have any support. I don't have a support system currently. My life has just been kind of like going in and out of different people's houses, renting rooms and stuff. And again, I would always attract however the universe works, other dysfunctional people. So because I like to stay in my room a lot, they get all pissed off, or they didn't like me, or I don't know. It's kind of crazy to me. Like, I didn't blast music or have parties, or I didn't really get it. Like, I'd pay them the rent on time and everything. I don't know. I don't know. And one guy I was living with, he was like another tenant, and he was nasty and abusive, and it got to the point where we kind of like came to blows, and I ended up getting my 2 front teeth knocked out. And I had permanent crowns for a while, and then they like broke. So now I'm like looking for dental implants, and obviously that's really expensive. But I had to spend some time with like no 2 front teeth, walking around town. My family is just horrible. I mean, at one point I was living out of my car, and nobody wanted to help me as far as my family. Like, they wouldn't let me come to their house, even though my dad was living there, and he had like 5 different kids between 3 different women, and wasn't like taking care of him at all. And for some reason they let him come over, but they didn't want me coming over or whatever. But they wouldn't even like help me get a hotel room or something. The levels of abandonment has just been so unbelievable. And that, honestly, I've dealt with so much pain in my life and so much rejection, and it's been so difficult just to function, that suicidal ideation has just been kind of like in the back of my mind my entire life. Like, please let this be over. Like, I just want to live like a decent life. You know what I'm saying? Like, some people aspire to be like really wealthy or whatever, have the coolest cars and the best whatever. I just want like a normal life. I want my own. I'm tired of roommates. I'm tired of dysfunctional people. I want like my own house and I've never had that yet, believe it or not. Because I haven't gotten to a point where I can make enough money or hold down a job to afford that, believe it or not. It's terrible. Like, it's like my entire life, my family, everything was just completely decimated from narcissistic abuse. And it was because nobody ever wanted to acknowledge it, or nobody ever, and like different members of the family, like it was just dysfunction that kept going on generation after generation. And in my family, I seem to be the only one that I know of that's actively like trying to figure out what the problem is, and has found out about personality disorders and CPTSD and is actively trying to do something about it. I mean, it's been like pure hell. At least I found out what this is, and I've been like rebuilding my life. And because I realized I was going to have, I had trouble in school and, holding down jobs, that just that grind of going to a job like, 9 to 5, some of you might be able to relate to that. Just after a while, like I might be able to do it for a few years, but I can't maintain it for long. I get in trouble with other employees just because they think I'm strange or weird or whatever. And it's horrible. Like I'm just always sort of the one who's being picked on or the weird guy, because my social skills aren't terrible now. They've definitely gotten better over the years, but sometimes I like to joke around. Sometimes I might say something other people think is inappropriate or whatever, and it's hard for me. They don't understand that I don't really get people. I've had to learn, like relearn. It's like because I was emotionally stunted and socially stunted, I had to like relearn how to, I don't know, deal with people, or I don't know. You know what I mean? Some of you could probably relate to that too, dealing with CPTSD. But I realized that I had to basically set up businesses for myself, set up multiple streams of income that could ultimately be passive, that would allow me to function and really almost be like financially free. So I didn't have to constantly worry and stress about money. If I needed a day off or, take some time off for my health and well-being, I could do that. So that's what I've been doing these past few years. And I'm really excited about it. I found this is actually part of it, healing from CPTSD. I was like, I'm either going to be poor or living in the streets or in the slums or something, or I'm going to have to figure out how money works and like become financially free here. Because I need to do what's best for me. And unfortunately, talking to a lot of other people with CPTSD, a lot of them aren't. I don't know if I know anybody with CPTSD personally that's in a really great situation in their life. Like they've been decimated themselves to the point where they're either still living with some abusive person, or they're living in some kind of government subsidized housing situation or whatever. People are living in and out of their cars. It's difficult to function and nobody cares. You know what I mean? It's horrible. What's wrong with humanity? My God, it's like we're in hell and everyone's just horrible. So yeah, my life has been completely destroyed fundamentally, and it gets tiring just trying to function all the time. I just can't believe it. I can't believe narcissistic abuse and how cruel and how abusive people can actually be, and how insane it is and how damaging it is, and how much healing I've had to do just to get to a normal place. My God, I just want to be normal so bad. You know what I mean? Like just to have a normal life. So having said all that, I am hopeful that I will be able to get to a point where I'm financially free and more stable, and I have streams of income coming in where it allows me to have flexibility in my life, where I don't necessarily have to be at one place 9 to 5, or I don't have to work 40 hours a week necessarily. If I need to take some time just to chill, I could do that. I am thankful to be in the information age, because it allows people to do that a lot more easily than it once was to do that. But yeah, I've had to find alternative ways to function in my life, because the status quo, it doesn't work. You know what I mean? So it's hard, and because I haven't been able to be financially stable or anything. That's another reason I haven't tried to date in a while or have maintaining it. I've just been trying to heal myself and get myself to some form of financial stability. That's pretty much, all I've been doing. So yeah, it's just been like pure hell. And I just, I laugh because, again, my sense of humor has had to become a little twisted with all this stuff I've been through and stuff I know you've been through too. I have made a lot of progress. I do feel a lot better. I can cope more. My ability to regulate my emotions and emotional flashbacks have definitely increased. And that, obviously, a lot of the where I am now compared to where I once was emotionally and psychologically and even socially is a lot different. And it's because of this system I put together, which the course Healing from CPTSD will be launching on, I pushed it back to January 8th, 2020, for the beginning of the new year, 2022, that is. So I'm excited about that. I think ultimately things are looking up. But, having to go no contact with your family is horrible. having to deal with people who just hate you even though you're not a bad person is horrible. I mean, my God, it's just crazy. Having no support system, just kind of being left on your own to flail, not even on your own, but on your own and damaged. It's unbelievable. So, I have issues with God and stuff like that. I don't even want to. It's like I have a unstable relationship with God too. It's like a lot of times I don't even want to think about God. It's like I can't stand the idea that any being of incredible power and or love or whatever would allow stuff like this to go on. So, I'm sure some of you have had those inner struggles as well. So yeah, that's pretty much how narcissistic abuse has affected my life. I wish I was normal. I wish I could have a girlfriend or maybe even a wife. I'm also concerned, like I don't want to repeat anything. But I've made a lot of growth since the last time I was in a relationship. But, I'm exhausted, man. I just feel completely fried. CPTSD is a perfect way to put it, because I feel like a lot of those soldiers who come back, that's how they seem. They seem like they're just fried. And they need to just sit there and have a drink, and just relax and not have a lot of stimulation and insanity going on, because they've been completely not only overloaded, but kind of like torn to bits psychologically and emotionally, So yeah, I just thought I would share a little bit of that with you guys, and hopefully, it's nice to be able to express what actually happened to a certain point to people who actually understand and can, validate me and understand where I'm coming from. Maybe some of you have had similar experiences, and you're just trying, it's like everything in your life is just about, trying to get your life back. So I think we can do it. I'm sure we can do it. But honestly, at this point, the most important people in my life and to me are you guys, people in the community of CPTSD who are struggling with these things and who know what it is, because we're like each other's real family at this point in time. The mental health field is not much help, so we got to stick together and do what we can to heal and empower ourselves and get to a decent, healthy place in our lives. So I think I'll just kind of leave it there for this episode. I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.